Good morning, my fellow YouTubers, or good evening, or good afternoon, whenever you're watching. So, in my own personal experience growing up, my mother wanted total control over me, and so did my brother. But as a teenager, I kind of came into my own. So, you might say your status was raised, and then you felt like because of your status being raised, you kind of felt like, I'm a pretty good individual. I'm not that dumb. I'm able to make fairly good decisions. So it started with my brother because I loved the idea of going to this high school that I went to, Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks. I felt very privileged. My uncle was in the first graduating class. My dad graduated 10 years later. The first graduating class was 48. My dad graduated in 85. And I used to look through his yearbooks, and it's a beautiful old Spanish mission style school, just beautiful, with those hallways with big arcs on the outside and the inside. And I'd already kind of fallen in love with California missions because that's where I grew up, and we would go see mainly Santa Barbara mission, but we'd go to all of them. So I was already completely in love with that old mission style architecture. And so when I got there, and my dad used to tell me regularly, whatever you put into high school is what you'll get out of it. And I saw that he really was very involved in basketball and football. He also did some track. According to him, he was the team captain of all three sports and the most valuable player and all this other stuff. Of course, he exaggerated. But he was involved in three different sports. So I got involved in swimming and water polo, and just really pushed myself. I wanted to be on the honor roll every single semester, and out of the 8 semesters, I only fell short twice. So I was working really hard, trying to always get my grades to be really good. I was working really hard on the swim team. Sophomore year on water polo, I got most valuable player. I got team captain junior and senior year. Junior year, I got most valuable player. So I just really was feeling kind of like, I was someone that was able to live my own life. So there was 2 fights that ensued before I'd even graduated with high school with my older brother that was 5 years older, and demanded complete authority over me, and demanded that I copy him in every way, in mannerisms and clothing and everything. So I just, was so happy to have this offer of conditional love from my brother, because I really only got fake conditional love from my mom, got no love from my father except for good presents on birthdays and Christmas. So I was all on board. I'll do anything for you, big brother. I will bow down to you and praise you and worship you as a god. If you will give me at least 50% of the time, you'll give me just full out teasing, ridiculing, abuse. But I'll do anything for that other 50% of the time where you act like you love me. And so I was willing to sign up. But like I said, once your status raises a little bit and you start to get some of that self-esteem and that confidence that comes from achievements and successes through hard work, you kind of start to think, why should I have to ask this guy what shoes I wear every day? Why should I have to ask this guy, how can I still look like a punk rocker in summertime? Oh, well, you got to wear your khaki shorts down past the kneecap and your monkey boots. And that's how you can still look cool in summertime as a punk rocker. Okay, good. I got the rules. I know what to do now. Hopefully I'm pleasing you. type of thing. And after you start to scratch your head and you're like, why do I have to do everything this guy says, I'll never forget how much he tripped out because I got into motorcycles and then he asked me to teach him, and he ended up dropping my 76 Honda Super Sport several times as I was teaching him how to motorcycle ride. But then he got so confused on how I liked wearing, boat shoes, Van Duren boat shoes on my Harley because I could really feel the pegs that way and they were so comfortable. Wasn't good for safety, but I liked how I felt like I had more feeling, not just with my hands, but more feeling with my feet on the bike. And that was something that just really perplexed him. Was like, how does he not care about his image? How can he just do whatever he wants and not care about what people might say or how people might look at him? I don't understand. I can't comprehend that, But I am an individual, and I always felt most comfortable being myself, making my own decisions. But as a child that was more influential and terribly, terribly in need for some positive affirmation and some positive regard from a family member, that I was willing to succumb in any way possible to make that happen. But that spirit of control is a form of witchcraft. Anytime someone is demanding that they have control over you and that you have to run everything by them, every decision you make. I was so bewildered by my own mother when I was in my late 40s, and the only apartment I could find was an apartment that was slightly in a black neighborhood. Because I needed to get 2 bedrooms. I had been sleeping on the floor. I had no bedroom for 8 years. I gave the bedroom to my kids. And so they would feel comfortable. I slept in their bedroom with them. They had the bunk bed and I'd sleep on the floor. So for 8 years, I slept on the floor, and I got kind of tired of that. And I really, because they were getting older, and I wanted them to have a room where, and I wanted to have a room for myself, working my butt off in a very stressful job, making pretty good money, but, California taxes the living daylights out of you. And then I had to pay for all the disabilities for vision, dental, and general health. And it ended up, they would take about 40% of my paycheck, and it was just ridiculous. So I had to bite the bullet and get a 2-bedroom, the only one I could afford. But it was only literally 2 blocks from an all-white neighborhood. So I was just barely into the black neighborhood, but it was literally only about 50% black, maybe about 20% Asian, like 20% Hispanic, and then 10% white. She was so upset that I was going to do this, and I didn't consult her first. I just told her what I was doing. She did her best for months to try to talk me out of it. And even when the paperwork had already been signed, and she was still trying to talk me out of it. And how dare you make this decision that I disagree with without running it by me? And I actually did share with her, but I wasn't trying to seek her approval. And here I am in my late 40s, and she's so offended that I'm making a decision of my own. Imagine 2 different countries. So you have a small country that's got sovereignty, and then you have a bigger country right next door with more military and more money, and them demanding that this smaller country has to run every decision they make and totally be governed and give up all their sovereignty and totally be governed by this next door neighbor that has no sovereignty over them. That would eventually have to end in a battle, unless that country just wants to accept the facade of having sovereignty and accept the facade of being its own country, and actually just being part of that other country. What country would want to do that? Just accept total control of a neighboring country that has no control over them. Why would you give up all of your control when you have your own sovereignty? You know, humans are individuals with sovereignty. They're created by God to make their own decisions, and hopefully make good decisions that lead to a relationship with the Lord and eventually eternal life with Him in heaven. Why would you give that up? Makes absolutely no sense. So, you know, but even as a like 29-year-old, I'd had my career for 2 years and just on a motorcycle. I didn't have anything but a motorcycle, and we have to carry all kinds of testing equipment. So it was dangerous. I'd literally have to drive with one huge bag strapped over, hanging on the right, and then another huge bag strapped over the other shoulder and hanging off the left side of me. And, you know, balance is everything on motorcycles, and I wouldn't have these bags weighing perfectly the same amount. And so, you know, and then the wind, a strong wind can blow you, and you're like this big sail on the motorcycle, catching all that wind. And I'd have to take the highway to, you know, ghettos, schools down in the ghetto. And so it was a bit of a commute, and it was dangerous, you know. So it was actually only the first year that I had to do that. But then I got together enough money, you know, first I had to get an apartment and then save for a car. And then I actually let my brother and my mother decide. They went to a car lot, a used car lot, without me, and decided what vehicle I should buy. And this was not a 68 Mustang. This is something that wasn't in my market, or what I was looking for. But I allowed them to exercise that control over me and to just go ahead and buy something like that, you know, is a lot of maintenance, you know, spending too much money on mechanics. But overall, I ended up falling in love with that vehicle, and I was very happy, enjoyed that vehicle very much. But still, to allow two family members to just go and decide what your car is going to be when you've gone through high school very good, well, you know, on the honor roll, you made it into a good 4-year college, you know, went to graduate school, holding down a full-time job and going to graduate school in the evenings. You've worked your butt off and you've made good decisions, and then to give up that sovereignty like that. But that's what I was used to. So sometimes I would let them exercise 100% control over me without fully realizing how wrong it was. But back to that example of two countries, you know, you just can't give up your sovereignty like that and expect to be a happy, well-adjusted person. You know, there's two different worlds colliding right there. One is I'm a capable individual, and the other is I am incapable. I need every decision to be made by my superiors when we're all equal in God's eyes, and we all are granted individual rights, inalienable, you know, undeniable individual rights. You know, we're all equal. I mean, even some of the clients I had when I was a job coach during graduate school, you know, these mentally disabled guys, you know, we used to call them mentally retarded. I know that sounds politically incorrect, but that was the MR, was the title these kids would have, mentally retarded. And they would be allowed to have sex with the person of their choice. So these kids would live in group homes, and sometimes they'd get a little romance. And if they wanted to, they were allowed to schedule a time to go in a bedroom alone behind locked doors. They'd teach them how to use prophylactics. But, you know, I come from a religious standpoint now more than ever, and those guys weren't married. And here these adults are supposed to have everything together and make perfect decisions, and they would allow these individuals to have sex out of wedlock, and you know, very low functioning. I mean, it's a 50-50 chance they're going to use the prophylactics correctly and avoid pregnancy. So even in that's questionable, you know. But we've decided that they are incapable, and basically anyone that tries to exhibit dominance and control over you is basically in that same mindset. We've decided you're incapable. Who is willing to accept that? If you accept that, you better believe over the long haul it's going to greatly diminish your self-esteem and your self-concept. So having that autonomy is just everything. You cannot give that up. And it happens between siblings a lot. Happens a lot in dysfunctional families, whether they be narcissistic or not. Dysfunctional families, people that are abused as children and neglected will become insecure. Insecure people like to exhibit control and dominance over anyone they can, because it helps them feel that they have control, and if they have control, that they don't need to be as insecure because they're able to control their environment and circumstances. So people that are insecure have huge desire to control everything they can, the circumstances in their life, the people in their life, so on and so forth. And that's just dysfunctional and wrong. So anyways, I'm going kind of out of my normal limit for time. I usually make like 8 to 13 minute videos. But just thought I'd make a video about how wrong accepting anyone's control over you. And obviously, the sibling trying to control you will come to the forefront of your mind first, that this is wrong. Because parents, you allow them to have some control over you as a child growing up. So it seems a little bit more natural. So in my case, and I think in the vast majority of individuals that are scapegoats, chosen ones, that are trying to be controlled by others, normally you'll try to buck the system a little bit with your siblings first. And then eventually, look, I was allowing, at age 29, 28, allowing my mother and my brother together to exercise control and decide what my next car is going to be. I wasn't allowed to go to college far away. Why not? Because I can't, basically the real answer was because I can't accept losing control over you is the real reason. But the fake reason is because I love you and I need you to stay close to me. That was not the real reason. The real reason was I need to keep having control over you. My mother would have tried to keep me living at home as long as possible if it wasn't for my dad, that just wanted me the heck out of there. Because, I think he was a sex addict, and he always needed to have as much sex as possible. And my brother had already moved out several years prior, so I was the last little obstacle in him just being able to walk around naked. He loved being naked, like narcissists often do. They just love being naked. And at least in my father's case, he needed and wanted to chase my mother around the house naked, and he needed and wanted to have sex unrestrained, any time of the day, whenever he wanted it. That's great. That was his wife. That's his priority. But he needed me out. He used to always tell me, "You're out of the house as soon as you hit 18." That's a real good way to show love for a child, right? But I did leave the house at 20, like just a few weeks after my 20th birthday, and I came back still as a 20-year-old. And my dad, the minute I came back, he just, every minute of the day, "You're moving out soon. Look into how you're getting out of here, because you're not staying here." And I think it was just that desire to have, to go back to what it was like before they had children. and to just have sexcapades as much as possible. I've shared in other videos, I had to constantly see them having sex. I would be set up by them to walk in and always have to see them having sex. And they would always lock the front door when they were having sex at the time I would come home from school. So I would have to walk up the side of the house and go by their bedrooms. They'd leave all the windows completely open. So it was a setup for me to have to see them running around the bedroom. They would plan it out. Oh, he gets home at 3:15. So let's make sure that we lock the front door and he has to come up the side of the house by the bedroom and then has to witness us having sex. And this even continued into adulthood. I'd get set up. Yeah, I have that money you needed. Just swing by and get it. Okay, great. I'm coming by right now. Hang up, go over there and open the door and bam, have to see them having sex in the living room. So I said I was going to quit like 7 minutes ago. I'm sorry. Anyways, God bless. That's just a long video, longer than I wanted, but about how wrong it is ever accepting control as a young adult or an adult. Obviously, as a teenager, you have to abide by the rules of the household, so you have to accept some control. But as a young adult and someone that's paying his own bills in his own place, it's not right for anyone to have control over you, or to think that you have to run every decision by them first. You can share with them your decisions, but you do not have to seek their approval for anything. It is the spirit of control, and it is a form of witchcraft. God bless. I hope this message resonated with someone. Have a good day.